Yo, what is up YouTube? I'm Ray, aka Blitz5, and today's video I want to talk about kombucha. So in the background, you're going to be seeing me bottling my first ever batch of kombucha. So first, let me explain why I'm making this video, what I'm doing here, all that stuff, and what exactly is kombucha. I'll explain that right now. So first of all, my page, I have a YouTube channel on here. I post a lot of different content, mostly related around video games, but recently I've been very into drinking kombucha. And I should explain kombucha for anybody that's not informed on it or they're not aware of what it is. And basically what kombucha is a probiotic tea. And you might have heard a lot about probiotics, or maybe you haven't, but basically there's a big trend for taking probiotics now, especially in 2017, I guess. It's been around for a very long time. It's an ancient recipe, but let me at least break it down for anybody that's not really informed on what it is. So basically, when you have yogurt, you're consuming bacteria, and a lot of people consider this, positive or pro-bacteria. And there's different levels of taking this. So you could just eat like regular yogurt, and then there was like Activia, which was, you saw probably all the commercials about it if you ever watched TV. But it turned out that I think Activia got sued because they didn't have all the healthy bacteria in there, and it wasn't as good as people thought. But there's also probiotic pills. A lot of people who are really into fitness will take probiotic or like digestive pills and have a lot of probiotic enzymes in them. Then there's also that milk called like kefir. I'm not really sure how you pronounce it. It might be kefir or kefir. That's popular like in Europe, I know. And that has a similar kind of effect. So there's all these different things that have probiotics. And why do people take probiotics? Because basically, your body and your stomach, your gut flora, it's all bacteria in your body. And people believe that, it makes sense that there's good bacteria and bad bacteria. So, this is a lot of the different beliefs between like why people don't like using Purell, because you wash your hands, you still have bacteria on your hands, but if you use Purell, it destroys all the bacteria on your hands and you have no bacteria to fight off any disease. So people say that, if you use Purell, you actually will get sick easier because you don't have any of the natural bacteria on your hand. And when you have natural bacteria, it kind of helps fight off the bad bacteria. And I'm not a scientist. I'm not going to bro science this out or anything like that. But some of this stuff is very proven. The probiotic side of it is still a little bit debated. So I'm not going to say that kombucha cures cancer and does all this stuff. It does not. It's not like that at all. But I have found that kombucha really does help my stomach, and that eating things with probiotics really does help my stomach and digestion. And that's kind of what it's for. There's a lot of people nowadays taking like apple cider vinegar after they eat to help indigestion, because some people need more acid in their stomach. And I found that was happening to me. A lot of times after I eat, I get heartburn, all of this stuff, and it really sucks. And then I noticed that if I would take a shot of apple cider vinegar, which is like an old remedy, holistic remedy, it would help my body kind of digest that, and then I wouldn't be bloated, have indigestion, burp, all that stuff. And kombucha basically does that to me. It's basically very acidic tea. There's some bacteria in there, and I find that it helps me. I'm not going to say it makes you feel 100% better. It just does that. And I also like drinking tea. Nowadays, I used to love drinking soda, and nowadays I stay as far away from it as possible. I try to stay away from sugary drinks, even though I love tea and soda and all that stuff. And what I love about kombucha is that after you make it, what I'm going to describe here in a second is the process involves tea, but it removes tea by the end. Sugar. So by the end, you are drinking tea that has a nice taste, but it's not very sugary. If you go and buy a bottle of kombucha in the store, it's probably going to have about 2 grams of sugar per serving. So the whole bottle here that you see in the bottom right hand of the screen probably has about 4 or 5 grams total of sugar, which I think is an awesome substitute to like drinking regular sweet tea or soda. And after you bottle it, it gets a nice kind of like bubbly carbonated taste to it. So it's like almost lightly carbonated tea. And that's awesome. It kind of has this alternative soda taste to it, which I think is really cool, or like at least mouthfeel, I guess you want to say, if you want to get really food scientific or whatever specific on you guys. It has a nice mouthfeel like soda. It's like a tea. You can flavor it different ways. If you go to the store and buy kombucha, which nowadays so many stores have kombucha. A long time ago, you'd have to go to like a Whole Foods or a specialty market, but now like the pharmacy down the street from my house has kombucha, which I think is awesome. You can get like mango flavor, guava, raspberry, all the traditional flavors. I try to stick to original and the ginger one because those help my stomach the best. Ginger is also another natural remedy for stomach problems, and that's kind of what got me started on kombucha. So I don't know, I just want to dispel all the myths. There's a lot of misinformation out there about kombucha that, some people think it's like a miracle cure, and then other people get frustrated by that and then just say that like kombucha is hippy dippy bullshit and that you shouldn't drink it and that it'll kill you. And it's literally neither of those. I hate those two extremes. It's just tea that's a little bit more acidic. I find it helps my digestion, and some people believe that probiotics have a great effect on your body. I'm not going to say that. I'm not a scientist. Probiotics are kind of not completely proven, but there's not enough studies out there to say that, you know, it's good or bad. I believe that it's good, but how far the actual health benefits go are debatable, right? So anyways, just watch what you believe, watch what you read about kombucha. There hasn't been major clinical trials done on kombucha because no one's put in the money to do it, but know that it's been around for thousands and thousands of years, and it's basically just drinking tea. So at the end of the day, if it doesn't do anything, you're just drinking a low sugar tea that tastes like it has a lot of sugar in it. And I'll explain how that happens right here. So in the background, what I had is I had a very large container of Kombucha Brewing. And basically what this is just tea with sugar. I just made a huge batch of tea. I used like 16 to 20 tea bags. And then you sweeten it with like a cup of organic sugar, put it in there, and then there's this thing called a Scoby, which is a symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast, and that's like the disc that I took out in the beginning. You put that in the container, you leave it at room temperature. Obviously, it's a little bit more complicated than this. There's a lot more steps, and if you want to brew kombucha, you can buy a book or watch a whole description video on YouTube. I'll maybe eventually make one of those, but since this is my first batch, I don't want to give any recommendations how to make kombucha because I have no idea if I even did it right yet, but I'll find out after a couple more days. I already drank some of it. It tastes great. I really like it. And going back to what I said, it tastes like it's kind of sugary. But what happens is the Scoby, which is basically they call like the mother, it's the symbiotic culture of bacteria and yeast. It feeds off the sugar and kind of makes the tea a little bit more acidic and almost tastes like it has vinegar in it, right? And sometimes, you know, you add a little vinegar to start the tea anyways. So the Scoby is it's alive, you know, it's bacteria and yeast. It eats the sugar and kind of converts it into that acidic taste. And then you kind of filter it out. And right now I have the Scoby on the plate behind the bottles. And then what you have left is a very low sugar tea. I'm going to say it again. I said it like 10 times, a little bit more acidic. And if you bottle it into these bottles and actually let it kind of ferment a little bit longer, it adds this carbonated bubbly effect because it's kind of like brewing beer or wine. And then it also becomes a little bit alcoholic. And the longer you brew it, the less sugar it's going to be because the Scoby is eating more and more sugar. So then the more acidic it will be, less sugary it will be the longer you go. And obviously if you let it ferment for a very, very long time, that sugar, and you keep adding more and more sugar, and there's a lot of sugar in there, say over a cup, that's the recommended dose for like a gallon of kombucha, then that sugar would turn into more and more alcohol, and that's exactly how wine is made. So basically what we're doing here is we're just doing what you would do with wine and grapes and doing that with tea. So I think, you know, that just shows you that this isn't anything very crazy here. And I don't know, it's just very cool. And I noticed that I've already gotten like 8 minutes just rambling about kombucha, but you know what? I'm going to keep going because we have plenty of time. If I make this video over 10 minutes, YouTube will appreciate it more and we could just keep going from there. So I basically given you guys the basics about kombucha. That's how you make it. That's what I did. I'm bottling it right now because I want to get that carbonated effect and also see how it kind of tastes from there. And what I did is I used a filter and I poured that in a funnel, and I just poured basically the kombucha batch into each of the little bottles that I've saved from drinking kombucha in the past. And what I plan to do here is kind of just brew some more tea, add it into this culture so the Scoby can keep going and making more tea. And I'll probably try new recipes after I do this going forward. Right now I just want to make the original version. I don't want to add anything, get too complicated. Like I said, I just started doing this and I'm very curious to see how it turns out, and hopefully, you know, I didn't mess it up. Like I said, I already kind of tasted it and it tastes pretty good, and we'll just have to see where it goes from there. And before I end this video, I also wanted to mention that fermentation also is in other things other than drinks, and it's been around forever. If you look at like basically what cabbage is, or I mean sauerkraut is basically just fermented cabbage, and they ferment that with salt, and you just and I guess that's it, and it draws the liquid out and it has this acidic taste. So raw cabbage is actually very good for you, and this is also in like the Korean culture. There's kimchi, and if you don't know what kimchi is, it's basically like Korean cabbage with like this red, it's kind of spicy sauce on it. I actually don't know what that is. It's like a almost looks like ketchup or sriracha, but it's not. And basically what they do is they leave the cabbage to ferment, and it has a lot of probiotics in that too. And this is an ancient thing in Korea. There's kimchi that, to keep it like room temperature, they leave it underground. It's dark, it's an even temperature, and they let it ferment for like years, almost like wine. So really expensive kimchi can ferment for like years, and they take it out and they have this really awesome kimchi. Or you can make it overnight. You let it sit overnight and you have like day-made kimchi, which is pretty sweet. So all of this stuff is kind of showing that it's not a scam, you know, so I really want to just harp on that because it really bugs me out that people get super frustrated with kombucha and think it's like totally fake. And yeah, so I'll come back with another video kind of saying, you know, how this went, everything like that. I successfully bottled the kombucha. I'm very happy. It's expensive, which is why I got started bottling my own kombucha, because it's about $3 to $4 to $5 a bottle, depending on where you buy it from. And if you buy it in New York City, it could be anywhere up to $8 a bottle. So, because I guess, you know, there's not a huge distribution of kombucha, and also it kind of takes, I'm sure a lot of it is kind of like a man-made process. You can't just have like a giant machine pouring out kombucha like soda. So I get why it's a little expensive. I hope the price comes down eventually, but this seems like a really good alternative if I or you or anybody can perfect their own kombucha and they can make it in their home. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know I rambled on a little bit there, but I'm very interested in kombucha hitting the 10-minute YouTube algorithm, even though I didn't plan on it. And yeah, like I said, thank you all for watching. As always, I'm Ray, aka Blitz5. Check out my channel for other related content and have a wonderful day. Peace.